All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session this afternoon, entitled Rediscovering Time Management Post-COVID with our speaker for this session, Rashad Davis. As you go through, really want to thank you all for participating with us today. So as we go through, if you have any questions, Mr. Davis will be facilitating those for you as well. But if you have any issues with any connectivity or things like that, or you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me in the chat. If you need to enable your closed caption, just please look above in your windows and you can utilize that function as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our speaker for this afternoon, Mr. Davis.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good afternoon. All right. So I'm just trying to figure out where my presenter view went really quickly. So actually, I'm going to stop the share and then restart it. Because it disappeared on me. So, all right. All right, can y'all see my presentation now? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so my name is Rashad. I am a senior learning strategies coordinator here in the Center for Academic Success at Louisiana State University. And my background is in finance and curriculum studies. I have my bachelor's degree in finance, and I'm currently working towards a PhD in curriculum studies. And that's really the most you need to know about me today, right? Ways to engage in this presentation today. We're gonna, hopefully, I want you all to participate, get something out of this, learn from each other is what we're doing a lot of. And so we're in Zoom. If you will, if you have the ability and the space available, if you can have your video on, that would be lovely. I would like to see some beautiful smiling faces. If not, that's okay. But discussions and questions are okay. So how we can do that? We can do that in chat, answer any chat questions. You can do any of the reactions, use any of the reactions. And then I don't have polls, but if I did, you could also use those. Let me make sure I have the chat up and available for myself so that I can see that. All right. So what are we going to be talking about today? So my major goals for our time together are comparing and contrasting reasons students have struggled with time management, both before COVID and after COVID. So I have a little bit of research about time management before COVID, and a little bit of research about time management after COVID, and then a little bit of anecdotal things from myself and coworkers of what we've seen. I'm going to provide you all with a list of resources that we use in the Center for Academic Success that help students with self-regulation and time management so that they can be successful in utilizing that unstructured time. And then at the end, we're going to discuss an intervention to help students with self-regulation and time management. Specifically, I'm going to split you into groups in a breakout room so that we can discuss time management that way with a particular student. So let's start. What is time management? And so one thing that I looked up was different definitions. And so the definition from Mind Tools is time management is the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between different activities, which very great. And I like the Berkeley Wellbeing Institute. The act of intentionally planning out what you need to do and when you need to do it. Both of them also, if you go to those articles, talk about doing things productively and efficiently. And so time management kind of helps with those things. So what are the benefits of time management? Hopefully, when you're improving your time management, you're increasing productivity in unstructured time. You're knowing what you're doing with that unstructured time. I don't use the term free time. Students use the term free time a lot when they're talking to me about what they're doing with their time. And I always try to nudge them towards the use of unstructured time. You're not using this unstructured time that you have in the most efficient manner as possible. And hopefully when you start structuring your time, it decreases procrastination, it decreases stress. You're living more in that eustress instead of distress of how am I going to finish all of my activities? How am I going to finish all of this work? How am I going to get to do the things that I need to do? So, what are common reasons students struggle with time management? And so this is where some of the research that I've seen before COVID happened, right? So a lot of it was the transition from high school to college. Students have a lot of structure. They're spending a lot of their day doing extracurriculars, doing homework, doing whatever their parents have them in after their extracurricular or work. So that transition from the high school structured environment to the unstructured but more disciplined levels of time for college. This one's more anecdotal, but also it's in some of the research, but spending too much time stressing about how much time they do not study. I've met with students that are like, oh, I spend 3 hours thinking about studying. And then once I start studying, I have overwhelmed myself to the point that I don't study effectively. And now I'm cramming. And then more research about balancing the unstructured time with studying and other personal obligations, whether that be family commitments, work, and whatever other things they have that they have to work through. So the time management in the pre-COVID era, right? So before COVID, if you remember the before times, especially in working with students, we had, in this picture I chose because it's like a stranger giving this child a present, no mask, like it was a free time, right? Things were different. But students were also thinking about just class, their social lives, extracurriculars and work, and then when are they sleeping, right? I spoke with a myriad of students that talk about, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or I don't schedule my sleep because I have work, I have a social, I want to hang out with friends, I also have to go to class. So that was most of our conversations pre-COVID era. And so now that we're in the COVID era and getting out of the COVID era, the post-COVID era, if you will, we're talking about what are our class formats? What is the structure of class? What is the learning environment that I'm going to be participating in? What does my social life look like now that I can go back outside, now that I can go out and hang out with friends? I still have extracurriculars and work to attend to. So how do I attend to all of those things? And then how do I handle the rest of that unstructured time that I have? So when working with this, we think about like class format, right? Is it online, hybrid, in person? Structure of the class, is it synchronous or asynchronous? Are you using pencil and paper, like the learning environment? Are you using brick and mortar schooling? Are you using online proctoring of exams? What are those things that you have to take into consideration in terms of managing what you're doing both in class and outside of class? What are your support systems look like? Maybe if you think about what was happening in COVID, they were doing a lot of their learning at home or in their apartments by themselves, not really a whole lot of support. And now that we're in that post-COVID era where things are open again, What does that support system look like? Are they with friends? Are they with family? Do they have to commute back and forth? What are the things that are happening? And then they're also on Zoom, right? They're still on Zoom. We're still on Zoom right now. Zoom is not going away. So what are we doing? How are we helping them structure all of that? And so I want to open the floor up really quickly. What are other patterns or trends that you all have noticed? And you can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself and speak out loud. But what are some other patterns or trends that you've noticed from students that are struggling with time management? Or do you not agree with any of the things that I've already discussed? Or do you agree with it? Sleep patterns. Yeah. So I'm seeing a lot with sleep patterns, social anxiety. So like getting back into like those social environments, making friends. I think I've seen a few students that talked about they don't know anyone at the university now. And so getting that is part of it as well. Fear of failure. It's better to fail by not doing it at all rather than work hard on it and still fail. Yeah. Like I've seen a little bit of that. Part of struggling with time management means not knowing where to look for class content resources. So they avoid looking for those things and finding it. Keeping up with assignments through their learning management system. Yeah, so thinking about those things, like we use Moodle here at LSU. And so thinking through how do you make sure that you know where everything is? Maybe some of your professors maybe keep it, if you're not using Moodle, maybe your professor is using like Pearson or something. And we'll get into some of that in just a second. But maybe it's all in Moodle, maybe it's in Pearson, maybe it's just on the syllabus. So where are you getting all of those things from, right? A lot of first and second years report feeling long-term difficulties from their time in COVID with high school, less prepared, et cetera. So yeah, I think a lot of current research talks about the COVID gap, I think is what it's been termed, that learning that kind of fell off from being in high school or that first year of COVID, not really being in person, learning gap that you've made there. So lack of communication. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on. But I like this discussion. I like where we're going here. Struggling with structure going into in-person class at a set time, as well as some professors not being as flexible with due dates. Yeah, like we learned in COVID to be more flexible. And now that we're coming out of COVID, that inflexibility, that rigidity is coming back. So a lot of times I ask students, when we're talking through time management, when we're working on their individual time management, we are thinking about how do we create a system, right? Creating a system that works for them so that they can reach their goals. And so in reaching their goals, I asked them, what are their gathering points? And so someone mentioned this, and I want to get your name right, who mentioned the Mary Waggus Pack with their learning management system, right? What are your gathering points? Is it Moodle? Are you looking at Pearson, My Math Lab, or Mastering Biology, Mastering Chemistry? All of those platforms. Do you need to look up what you're doing on your syllabus? What are those gathering points, and how are you making sure that you have all the physical and virtual needs, all of your physical and virtual needs met so that you can be successful in your classes, right? And then from there, what we have to do is start developing that system, right? So you look through what your syllabus is doing, your Moodle, your syllabi, Pearson, Mastering Biology, Mastering Chemistry. Look through those things. What are those due dates? What are the things that you have to be understanding and knowing here from the important dates? What does that course outline look like? Here in the Center for Academic Success, we have these class organizers, but this could also be your phone. This could also be a planner. This could be anything, but we have these for individual classes so that you know how your semester looks, how it stacks up. So along with all of your other classes, and then let's start putting that all together in one view, right? So we want to reduce the amount of gathering points is what we want to do. So once you look at where all your gathering points are, let's put them in a singular view so that you know how you're going to be working throughout the semester. And then from there, like I said, from your class organizers, from your syllabi, let's put all of those in a planner in a calendar, in your phone, wherever that is, so that you can see, like, maybe one week I have an English paper due and a bio test that week. Let me work backwards from this bio test and see when do I need to be studying and what are all the other things that I'm going to be doing around studying for that biology test. So like mom's birthday, but I'm going to start maybe after mom's birthday, studying for my biology test. How do I make sure that I'm ready for this? Same thing for that English paper, right? So you know where all your things are, you know where your gathering points are. They're all in one spot now. Let's start working backwards and backfilling what we can do in order to reach our goals. And really, when we talk about reaching our goals, we're talking about managing time effectively. And so I will sometimes bring up with students the Eisenhower matrix, right? And if you've heard of the Eisenhower matrix, I saw Lauren get excited. When we talk about the Eisenhower matrix, I want students, and I was talking with one of my coworkers, we really want students to kind of live in the not urgent but important field, right? And that's what time management helps us do. It helps you kind of prioritize and focus in on what you're supposed to be doing with your time, right? So if you're understanding all of these things are important, these are your tests, your quizzes, your exams, your papers, your projects that you have to do. And if you put them in your calendar, if you've reduced the gathering points, none of them are going to be super urgent if you plan out accordingly what's happening. Now, some of them might get to this urgent, but like we want to live here. This is where we want students to live when planning for their classes and planning for the things that they have to accomplish in a semester. And when we're doing that, we look at what does your standard week look like, right? So now we have what your whole semester looks like. Let's look at what your standard week looks like. And looking through your standard week, we want to make sure that you know when you're going to class, when you have work, and I know this is a student athlete center as well. So when do you have practices or games or things like that you can't miss, team meetings? When are you doing, when are you studying? When are you doing homework? And then when are you socializing? When are you having gym time? And a lot of that is predicated through what we in the CAS use as our study cycle. So the study cycle, we have a lot of this, and it helps you kind of think through what are your goals. And so looking over here, that focused study session, like setting your specific goals and then going through that time that you have to kind of make sure that you're hitting those goals as you're going through your week. And that's how we live in that time frame, in that period, and look through our week. So a demonstration, right? So like I said, you want to go through and put in what are your consistents? What are the things that are non-negotiable that you can't miss, right? So class, usually, right? You know what times classes are. Classes are at the same time every week if they're in person or synchronous web-based. If they're asynchronous, then we start talking about picking a class time for that. From there, go in and put in any other standard commitments. So team meetings, work, organizational meetings. What are those consistent things that you're going to have to do each week in order to be successful? Sorry. And then let's go back and fill in, when are we studying? When are we doing the things that we need to do in order to be successful for class, right? What are the things that we have? And then any of the blanks, that's your unstructured time to socialize or go to the gym. We can also write those things in with you, right? When I'm doing an academic coaching session, I am talking with them like, okay, so now we have this 11 to 12 break. Are you eating lunch? Are you meditating? Are you going to work out? What are you doing in between these times in order for you to be successful and for you to feel accomplished in the things that you have to do? And then from there, let's break that down even further. Let's think about what we have in each class, and let's start backfilling in what we're going to accomplish in each of those classes for that week. So now we know that in biology, we need to preview chapter 4. We need to review our notes. We need to do chapter 3 homework, which is due on Thursday. attend a supplemental instruction, and then do a focus study session. And so I'm gonna go back a few slides. So now we go back and look at that, and we see where we can put those things in to make sure that these study periods here are filled with the things that we need for maybe biology, and then again for English, for psychology, and space those things out. Make sure that we're hitting those goals appropriately. So when you're working with students, I talk about establishing a routine. And that's how we think about establishing that routine. And I wanted to hear from you all, what are some of the resources that you all use to help students establish their routine for time management for their week? How do you help them make sure that they know what they're doing in any given time? Google Calendar, love it. Outlook calendar. Yes, I tell so many students about my Outlook calendar. Timers. I also tell them to set a timer on their phone when they're studying so that they don't like burn themselves out. Like, you want to know when you're studying, how long you're studying, how focused are you during that study time. Like, put your phone on do not disturb. The Pomodoro method. One of my coworkers loves the Pomodoro method. But yeah, making sure that we hit on all the things that we need in order to be successful. So when I talk about establishing a routine, right? Time management is dynamic. And what we want to do is make a realistic plan. I never want students, when I sit down with students, I never want them to just tell me what they think I want to hear. I want them to say what is realistic for them. Like, if you can't do 2 hours of studying at once, we're not writing that on your calendar. That doesn't make me happy, and it doesn't work for you. So let's work towards a plan. Let's make that plan. Let's take action on that plan. And at the end of the week, we can review and adjust and make a new plan. Let's throw out what's not working, implement some new things to try to see if those work, but let's keep what's working. We want to get small improvements as we go throughout, right? We want to see what you're doing and how you're doing those things so that you can make sure that you're being successful. This is all about your success, and I'm just here helping you facilitate what you want to do for that success. So time management, dynamic, work towards a realistic plan. And when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're making changes based on your own reflection, right? What's been working for you? Process with your to-do list, and process that with specific times. Like, okay, I'm going to read chapter 4. I'm going to skim chapter 4 at 11 o'clock on Monday. So now I know what I'm doing for that at that specific time, for that specific class at that specific time. I always say, write those things down on like a sticky note or somewhere where you're going to see it, because it helps your mind stay focused on that task. If you can stay focused on that task, then you're doing really well on making sure that you have what you need in order to do it. And then be flexible. Like, give yourself grace. Give yourself an opportunity to be human. Like, sometimes we forget things. Students are really hard on themselves when they forget one thing. They'll let multiple things just slip through the cracks. But be flexible where possible. Just make sure that in your reflection, when you're reflecting on what worked well, you also know that this didn't work well for me, and these are the reasons why. Here's how I want to mitigate those things in the future. It's all about how do we adjust to that routine. And we also always talk about how do we maintain balance, right? Balance is key. You need sleep. Sleep is so important. Like, I cannot emphasize enough how much sleep is key. It helps build retention and long-term memory. It helps you stay mentally sharp, mentally focused, and doesn't lend itself to mental fatigue if you get enough sleep regularly. Can't get like 12 hours of sleep one day and then 4 hours of sleep another day. It's not going to balance out. So I always talk about we have the same 24 hours, right? And so we call this the 8-8-8 rule. Get 8 hours for self a day, 8 hours for school a day, and 8 hours for sleep a day. And realistically, I tell students to treat school like a full-time job. You have 40 hours a week of school. You use that how you need to use that in order to be successful. But that 40 hours a week for school is how if you think about it like a full-time job and do that work like it is a full-time job, you will probably be successful in your classes and reaching your goals for your classes, while also dedicating some time for yourself and some time for sleep. 6 to 8 hours a week. 6 to 8 hours a night of sleep is going to help you stay mentally prepared. So I want to take a quick break, give a quick discussion. What are some other resources that you all have that we can share if you have a link to it? If not, that's fine as well. But anything for you all that you share with your students to help them with time management? What are some things that help them with that? Time budgets. Five-day study plan. Okay, cool. I like that. Utilize gaps between classes to stay in school study mode. Nice, nice. Yeah, we talk to students a lot about like, how do you stay in that school mode? And I want to share this here with you all that has some of the resources that we talked through today. Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. We don't have a formal weekly calendar for the students, so I share my Excel spreadsheet I made that simple. Awesome, Dr. Loving. I think that's really good. I think like showing them an example of one filled out also really helps them know how to do it. So we have a few, I didn't put them in this this folder that I just shared with you all. But we do have a few filled out ones enough. If I can find them, I'll send them to the organizers to send out to people. But we have a few filled out things to show students how to fill it out for themselves so that they can like start building towards autonomy. Yes, yes, that's exactly what we do. Awesome, awesome. So I feel like I've gone really fast because we only have one more part. I feel like I've covered goal 1 and 2. Do y'all feel like I've covered goal 1 and 2? Which I'll go back and show you. Goal 1 was compare and contrast. Compare and contrast. Reasons for time management. Reasons students struggle with time management both before and after COVID. And then recognize at least 2 resources that can support student self-regulation for time management. So we talked about both of those. I feel like I hit those. And I just want to make sure that you all feel that we've hit that. Awesome. So our last thing that I wanted to chat with you all about, and really it's a discussion, I'm going to break you off into breakout rooms as a case study. And so I'm going to put this in words in the chat. Let me make sure I can do the breakouts again. How many people do we have in here? I see 21. I think 7 rooms should be good. All right, so I will create, and then I will also, let me put that in chat. I will stop the share really quickly because it won't let me do it. Sorry, y'all. And here we go. I think someone left, so
If you would like, I can move them around to get them in rooms together.
I think Anna might be in a meeting, in a
Okay,
person meeting, so we can just kick her, and then we can move Aaron to any other room.
okay. I'll move Aaron with Jennifer. Let me see. Move to 6.
And then same thing with Dr. Lovings, it looks like.
Okay, and I'll move her to 1. That work? Nope, that's in the same. Okay, so
Maybe room 3.
yes.
Oh, no, there's one with Jennifer still. No one with Jennifer.
Okay. I see if that one worked.
There were
All
some,
right,
they
there
all
we
left.
go. We're good now.
Yeah. They all left right when I said we're gonna do breakout rooms.
So how long do you want them to stay in the breakout rooms?
7 minutes. So I
7
had,
minutes?
yeah, 2:03.
Okay.
And then come back out for a parent share. I feel like I went gone really fast.
But you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Uh,
I probably should have. It's like 30 slides, and I feel like I've gone through them in that 30 minutes. So it's like,
No, it's fine. Once you get going, it just flows.
but I'm glad people also put their cameras on.
Yes.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. All right. So we talked about our student Aspen, first year student. And I realized while y'all were in there that I didn't have the classes up anymore. So y'all didn't see what their classes were. But what are some of the things you all talked about in your groups that would help this student? And we lost a lot of people, it looks like, because of, I'm assuming breakout rooms just still aren't people's jam.
We talked about identifying what his day looks like, like using, planning out or looking at his day and seeing what it looks like and where those gaps in time, where is all this free or unstructured time that you have. And we also looked at talking to the student about, what do you think your day should look like? What do you think you're supposed to be doing? And what do you want it to look like? We talked about looking at study skills and how he was kind of performing, what is he doing with each of the classes? What does he have to do for each of the classes? Kind of breaking down like the assignments and the readings and things like that. And then we also talked about looking at him holistically and looking at like, well, are you dealing with, how is the transition going? Because you think like you have all this free time, you don't know what to do. What, have you done socially? Have you been meeting people? What's the roommate situation? Things like that. Just kind of looking at them holistically as well as, just academically.
Yeah, and I think those are some of the things that I've talked with students about as well. Like I will ask, what are some of the things you did in high school? Like what occupied your day in high school? And then what are the things that you're doing now? And what do you want to occupy your time? I think that's really good. Yeah, Dr. B.
Hello. In our session, we talked about some of the similar stuff, but also kind of having the students sort of map out their day, kind of like similar to one of the schedules you had where it has a 30-minute blocks locked off and, put down when they have their classes, even having conversations with the student. Have you even looked at the syllabus? Have you logged into the Moodle page for the course to see about upcoming assignments? We kind of focused more on the academic side of things rather than kind of getting into their social aspect as well.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say NP row. I'm gonna say NP row. This might be a case where you plot time on the calendar and also let the student know that they could treat their day like a full-time job. Yeah, this is one of those opportunities to like say, this is how you're occupying your time now, and here's how you could occupy it. And I think what Dr. B is saying, let's see what your academics look like. Do you even know that you have a textbook? I've met with multiple students that don't even know that they have a digital textbook in their class that they already have access to, let alone a physical textbook that they have access to. So how do you access that? How much time would it take you to read a chapter that you're going over in that textbook? And they don't know those things. And so pointing out those resources for them really helps them think through what does their academic time really look like if they haven't went through their gathering points, right? If they haven't gone through where their syllabus is, what their Moodle page looks like, what their Pearson looks like, or I guess Blackboard is another operating system, learning management system. There's another, Canvas. I'm trying to remember all of them. Anyone else? In my class, I have students time themselves while they are reading. This gives them a chance to see how long it takes to read a certain kind of text. Yeah, and I think that's actually something that I've never asked a student to do, but that's a good strategy. And it also helps with I tell them like, you're not reading a textbook like it is a novel, like you're not reading it cover to cover, right? So let's see how we can read this that helps you get a good understanding of what you're learning in class. And also, like, you're not trying to read for pleasure. Like, that's not what we're doing. Understanding their comfort level in their courses, then having them set time for resource visits to address concerns or instructor visits. I always ask them to plan out when they're going to the professor's office hours. Like, they set office hours for a reason. You should visit them. Let's visit them at least once. So yeah, I really love these ideas. Like a comic book and not a novel. They don't have to, yes, but sections, like you're reading sections. I love that, Dr. Lovins. I love that. All right, so that is really my time. If you all don't mind, this is my own personal feedback survey. If you can scan it, if not, I will drop that bit.ly link in the description in the chat box below. If you don't mind, please give me feedback, anything to help me improve my presentation skills.
Thank you all so much for participating in our session this afternoon. In addition to Mr. Davis's feedback link, I'm going to allow you all time to grab that one. We're also going to add in our link as well to provide feedback. But again, thank you all so much for attending with us today.